All right, y'all. It's time for episode 13. I believe we clapped at this point. Grown man shit, no. But today we're going to be discussing solitude and reflection. So there, if we imagine, just paint the scene, a guy who is ideally the man, if he's in a household, is leading. Doesn't have to be in a household though. Could be a guy who's just to himself. And so, amidst all of the chaos of whether it be the kids, the family, the work obligations, whether it be a business, all the chaos of that, or the chaos of what it actually takes to do the job he's doing, there comes a time where I think every man has to take a step back and consider and reflect on where he is, and is the ship going in the direction that he wanted, and if not, course correct. Seems slightly different. We discussed focus before, but this is more of a reorientation, which is difficult to do if you're in the midst of everything, right? That's why men have man caves and things of that nature, because naturally we all crave solitude in a way women don't. It's different for the reason as well. I know for me, I'll just go out I'm alone all the time, but even if I'm by myself, I'll just go out into the woods or into nature, like probably 4 times a week. So I'm usually, again, by myself. But
nature trail or literally off in the woods?
I mean, it's a trail, but it's not far off from either. Like, it's it's not like a random in the mountains, but it's way too much time. But it's
doing
pretty,
the Appalachian Walk.
Yeah, I got that kind of time. But pretty close. I mean, very deep into a trail, so it's nothing but bushes and rivers and stuff. So, yeah. So I know for me, particularly if I have a pertinent issue, or just to see, like, okay, I'm writing this, am I considering this properly? I have no phone, no nothing. This is it's actually, as I'm describing it now, I'm like, oh, this is actually a routine. I never really thought about it like that. I just intuitively go whenever I crave the solitude. But it is closer to a routine. But yeah, that's something I make a habit of doing, just to ensure that, okay, 5 days have gone by. Are we on track? And sometimes that's more difficult, at least for me, to do in the concrete walls. There's something about me going in nature that no phone around, nobody can reach me, that gives a different level of clarity. So yeah. So our topic for today, see what these wise men have to say about that.
It sounds to me like it sounds like you're pointing to what feels to me like a primal place where, as men, we would go off and hunt for days, either as lone wolves or as part of a pack. We'd go off and be solitary with nothing but our own thoughts. It gave us, in my mind, a sense of clarity and purpose and focus and intention that allowed us to complete the task. And that's definitely a missing in today's society. And it is why, what you pointed to, the man cave, why men need that, to just go off and be in our own thoughts. Although nowadays man caves are distractions just as well, because even then it's like, okay, I'm gonna go play Call of Duty. That's not really being by yourself, you know. That's a different way of winding down, but it's not solitude where you can actually reconnect with what your purpose is and what you're trying to do. And that's what it sounds like you're speaking to. So.
Not my interpretation of how he is it. Right. I didn't know if that was how most guys are, but my use. This is slightly different than even a use. As you mentioned, it's more of a craving than a use. I'm not thinking about it in like a tool. It's something that must happen.
I would say a lot of men probably. I know I've definitely craved solitude. Go take the dog and go off in the woods
Right.
and do the same kind of thing. There's a peace and a stillness that and an intentionality that comes after you do that. I don't know that most men are aware of that at this point, to actually even seek that out. Most men, when they're thinking, okay, I need downtime, I need me time, I need post time, I need man cave time, they're going off to the gym, hoops, Call of Duty, you know?
Is the couple of layers I hear and feeling through my listening of solitude, and so is the solitude that it is focus oriented? Is it like, meaning, can you take work into, not like can, but is that still the same solitude that we're talking about, or is it purely being with self-thought, self-reflection? What would you say?
No, the word from a technical standpoint would just be you being by yourself.
By yourself,
Right.
yeah.
I wouldn't say it would be a work thing. Like going in, being in the zone where you're actually, okay, I'm taking my laptop, I'm going to go do some work. It's different. Although arguably, if your work is something physical and you're going out and being by yourself doing something physical, I think that has a different energy to it than sitting by yourself in an office or a room.
That is because I'm looking at what I'm hearing and what y'all are describing is like getting off the grid, unplugging. You said specifically not being able to be reached. So of course the lack of distractions, and I think that's probably where I was looking at the overlap, thinking to just focus, because it is solitude from distractions, but then solitude in thought. That's even beyond breath work, meditation, like to actually go out from my comfort of home. I'm in the streets every day running miles, and there's civilization around. I'll take routes. One thing I have always liked to do, okay, perfect, dope. So my solitude looks like driving and exploring. Every city I go to, I want to be lost. I want to know a general direction. Well, this city's next door, this city's next door. Where does that road go? I always wonder where that, and go off the beaten path when I'm doing my stress relief or just want to get energy out. Of course, I got the car that I love. Going for a drive, like I'd be looping around 285. That's what that, literally a hot lap. Okay, I got 30 minutes, an hour. Okay, what freeway do I want to take? Who drives like they got some gas in their veins on this side of town? That kind of thing. I do appreciate nature. I can't say I go seek it specifically. It'll be when I'm in a season I'm on my bike on a regular basis. And with the running, I would say, just for the context, I don't know, some cats to sprain and break ankles and shit fucking around with hikes and things. So I've never strategically just gone for a nature route for the purpose of running. My running is all on street. So my definition of solitude, I see it as, to what I just touched on, the stress relief. What I think about and what comes to mind is that masculine needs a figurative solitude, just being alone from kids, family, women. I believe there's definite value in unplugging from the work, spiritually, breath work, meditation, or just thought, journaling, vlogging, like whatever you do to get your thoughts out, being with that space, absolutely. And also the focus of taking your work with no distractions, deep work, and getting that type of solitude. As it occurs to me, that's the value. I just heard it today. It was reflecting on all the distractions that we have in today's society, and like the roots of the Stoics would even focus on back maybe 50 years ago, before all the technology and shit, they still unplug and get away from all the distractions, like when there weren't the level of distractions that we have. So I just heard that on a podcast and had that thought in mind. But I do think, I heard it somewhere in the conversation, purpose, like who you are, what you're up to. That sort of reflection, because masculine, we build up from nothing. Whatever our purpose is going to be, whatever we're for, whether it's temporary, long-term, life, destiny, whatever level you're at, I do think there is solitude for me is where masculine is like forged, like how a diamond is forged. Like it needs that by itself time to distinguish. And there's by self away from the village, like going out with the men maybe, and it's off to war, off to explore whatever the project is, building something. And then there's also by self to distinguish Dwayne, Lewis, Vidal, like who am I? Who answering that question, that masculine question, who am I? And I think that's a thought really. That doesn't necessarily need to be by yourself. It's thoughts and dialogue. Like, hey Lewis, man, I'm thinking about this masculinity architect thing. Man, you think that'd be a good book for me? Like that's not what helps me define who I'm rooted in, what I'm here for. That's I've found that contrast by myself. That's in thought, and I can do it amongst others. If anything, I'd say that's distinguished in contrast to others, especially growing up or younger years, when you're figuring, oh, okay, I've been around some of the mentees. I'm thinking like this, and all my peers are thinking that way, and like that does distinguish I'm different. I can see that in my lifetime. Different activities and things, younger days, you'd be sitting around a trap house and there's a book about cars on the shelf, and I register, everybody's playing some video games, lighting something up over there, doing business, and I'm not stimulated. I'm breaking out a book learning about engines because that's the only thing that there's something different. Okay, I'm not going to be here in a year, 5 years, 5 weeks. That level of solitude comes up for me as well.
What that points to, what I hear in that is, I don't think you have to answer your first point. I don't think you have to be in the woods. You have to find solitude in yourself. It does not have to be a particular way. Mm-hmm. And what came to mind is I had a job when I was younger, and it was probably one of my most introspective periods. But my job was to ride and spy on bus drivers. I just rode the buses and trains and spied on the bus drivers and trains up in New York. It was never alone because it was New York and New Jersey, so there were always people around. But I was also always by myself for hours and hours, exploring, so places in Jersey I'd never been to, nobody had ever heard of, and places in New York the same, and it's like, oh, okay, let me stop here. Get off here. Get off of a bus at a random spot. Take the bus ride to the end. Take it off to just before the end. No idea where I am. This is long before Google Maps and all that other stuff. So, all I had was the bus map. Like, okay, this is the city I'm in. What's around here? This looks like an interesting spot to get off at. But in that, I'd be reading, and I would be in my own head. I would daydream, create scenarios. I would think about what the next 5 years would look like. So I don't think you have to be in the woods. I don't think it has to look any kind of way. You just have to be able to shut off external stimuli. And part of that means, and again, when I was doing this, it was long before Google Maps and cell phones. So if I were doing that now, it would probably not be solitude. And the reason I say that is I would probably be on my phone more than in my head or in a book.
That's the key point. You said something that I think we often forget or take for granted. He said, I wasn't alone, but I was by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you were around people the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But you felt alone, which seems to be distinguishable from, it's not just about having people around. Because Dwayne could never be alone if his daughters were around.
Correct.
Meaning he could never be by himself because that's an extension of himself in the way he thinks about it. So whatever they're doing, there's a level of I can never completely.
And even if
unplug.
they're not interacting with him,
No, that's
he's
what I
still
mean.
focusing on them.
Somewhat, like there's never a complete disconnection,
Right.
because it's like, well, I need to make sure that stays on. Now take that and scale that to the house, family. If I'm in the house, there's a level of somewhat awareness of, so you can never fully unplug in, right? Where in your case, you didn't know anybody around you, so you didn't feel this mental obligation. Billy Bob over there looks like he might be in danger, you know. Like,
You know, I mean, it was New York, New Jersey, so you still have that hair on the head.
course,
You're
of
conscious, but you're not connected to anybody.
right,
People get on and off, and
right,
you know.
which is where the by yourself part comes in, and so that stuck out to me. But and as I'm listening, that's where we added solitude and reflection, and so. And I'm thinking about how everybody's considering solitude, because you mentioned driving. I was like, okay, I know people who that's their version of it, right? Just driving. I've never been a car person. Not a long drive, kind of point A to point, but I'll be in the woods for hours, 4 or 5 hours. Just not even no grid, no idea what time it is. Like could be 3 hours ago I got here. Could have been 30 minutes. I cannot tell. So I have habits of. You know, it's crazy as I'm thinking about it. I'm very intentional about time unplugging. Like, there are things I do that I don't consciously consider in this way, where I do things that I don't know how long it's been. Right? So, when nature is like that, phone, I have no idea how long I've been here. I'll set up structure today to where, right, it doesn't matter how long I've been here. I leave whenever the instinct comes. The sun, it's summer, so it could be 9 o'clock, it could be 5 o'clock.
Right.
I'm also like that when it comes to women. Like my phone is, I have no idea how long we've been talking. I'm also like that if I'm chopping it up with people as well. There's sometimes that's the case, sometimes not. But definitely, because even in how my room is structured, and they'll always say this, there are no clocks in here. Like, I have no idea, like, how long we've been doing anything in this room, right? And I'm like, neither do I. Like, and so it's there's an element of that where it's like, until I come out here, or somebody go, oh shit, it's been 5 hours. Like, no concept of time.
Do you keep your phone in your room?
Sometimes it's not even. Even if it is like it is right now, it's on do not disturb. My phone auto goes on do not disturb after. Right, so I am very intentional about not just solitude in the sense of even by myself, but that kind of there's definitely a distinction between and this was more evident back in the day when you genuinely couldn't be reached, right? But there is an element of never being aloneness as long as your phone's on you, right?
Yep.
There kind of is, but unless you turn it off or it's on, you're kind of never alone. And so, as you said, even though technically you're still by yourself in the same way you were when you were riding the buses, there's something about our social media connections that give the same effect. As if your daughter was there, or there's something, but there's Dwayne, there's Trey. There's an element of I'm still in the tribe, I'm still in, even though it's just an electronic device.
What's missing is a word you said earlier. It's not just solitude, because you're right, you're alone with your phone, you're solitary with your phone, but there's no time, pause, intention on reflection, which is the word you use. If you're not reflecting, that's not what it seems like we're talking about here. And solitude without reflection just means you're alone in this context. The reflection, if you're on your phone, you're not reflecting.
The way I think about it, even in that, I was going to ask you guys, can you reflect without solitude? And because I was thinking about that as Dwayne was talking about the driving. I was like, that might be a prerequisite. I can't imagine being able to reflect in, you know, kids there while you know, like.
There are certain spaces you can. Meditative spaces, zone spaces, Zen,
not
yoga
literally.
spaces.
I don't mean literally being alone physically, meaning like, because even in those spaces, there has to be an aspect of you where I don't have responsibility to these people.
I'm not focusing on these people, right?
Whereas with our family, there's a level of I got to make sure they're fine first before I even allow myself to lock off. Whereas if you're in a meditative retreat, as you mentioned, these people are my responsibility, so I'm able to.
Right.
And so with the solitude, what struck you mentioned in the phone and even the example you just gave, it seems to be more about the ability to literally be with yourself. Meaning, if I have my phone, the way the phone feels to us is like really a million people in this electronic thing. It's not really, whether it's a YouTube video, it's an Instagram post, a reel, there are humans here. And they're taking my attention. And so solitude seems to be where the light of attention is flipped completely on your own and without any external. What are your thoughts on that as far as seems to be this? Because if the light of attention shines, I'm looking at the wall, I'm looking at Lewis, I'm looking at it's when it's completely on me. Right? Yeah. Obviously it's going to look like thoughts. And I can allow that to occur without there being reasons why I can't completely. Because there, you know, we can tell the difference between when we're completely inside our own heads versus where you don't even know what's happening. Like you're so immersed when you're in deep states of meditation. That's if you go deep enough, you don't even know where you are.
Time and space doesn't matter.
Right. And so that level of solitude seems to be distinct from just even what am I going to eat for lunch today? By yourself solitude. It's like you could be by yourself and just be thinking about everybody else in like a not self-reflective way. So,
and that goes back to what I was saying earlier, that key word. Solitude without reflection is just being by yourself. What we're speaking to is reflection, self-reflection, where you're focusing inward. There's a level of, just because you're alone doesn't mean you're doing any internal personal work. And I think the point of this reflection, solitude, which I think is necessary the more we talk about it, and I think we're not doing it as a society, but if you have a kingdom, your household, and you never take time not just to be by yourself, but to actually take time and reflect on yourself, then you're doing yourself and your kingdom a disservice. You're not really serving either of them. You have to get inside your own head and self-reflect.
I'm gonna laugh when the first comment comes up. Please mute and put your phones on vibrate.
Mine was fine. I muted mine.
That's you. Is that your? No. I know I keep mine on vibrate. I hear like in the, and I want to say humanity because I think it's just masculine, which obviously women can tap into. I feel like there's masculine grounding, a space that I'm very present to in this chapter and season, with full focus into, you know, when I say masculinity architect, that's a brand, and it's the umbrella I've put my purpose and passion under. And in this season, what I'm present to is how an incubator, and I think it's grounding overall because I see the other facet of it. So the first layer is like if you're rebuilding your identity, if you've had some life shift or some awakening or just owning and, you know, truly finding your path, your truth, there's like calculating, curating who you want to be, what you want to do, how you want to do things, your ideals, your beliefs, and in that, like the mixture of bringing it into fruition, like the work that it's going to take day in, day out. And because it's not solidified, even the space of like you're writing a book, when you put it to pages, have it be reviewed, have it be like, even once it's a physical thing, and there was such a journey from thought and inception to jotting down notes to, all right, let's start writing some chapters, to really start harnessing it. And the same thing on my end. What's the vision? What's the platform? What's the voice? What's the audio? Like so many layers of how to build life. And I say this, I think it does, it's about man, grown man shit. So in a man's space, especially when it's not the survival, I think this is the thrival space. You're not just paying bills. You're not just, maybe even going to school or getting some type of accreditation so that you can go get a good job. I mean, even the truly who you are. And when you decide to build into that, I see it as a transition, because I've reached certain heights and they've still been the following an ideal, doing what society says, or just checking the boxes and taking care of responsibilities. And it feels like the tapping into your dreams, what I truly want to achieve in life, where I want to go in life. The manifestation is where my concept, thought, idea is impacting the world. So whatever I had up here, it's not just can it exist, will it exist, the world accepts it and reverbs back, has gotten that value, has seen the value in it, received it, taken it back, and it's now integrated into the world. And then the next generations are bouncing off of, well, here's a cornerstone, or here's an authority, here's who wrote the book, kind of thing. And not to the egoic identity context, just of I'm present to what that path takes. And in that, my journey especially has been solitude, because that is like an ICU unit, incubator, because it is so brittle, frail. Like, when you start a business or something, you're feeding a baby. So many outside opinions can influence it. Observations, looking at what else is out there, can influence it. Am I really this? Is this really going to work? The constant fortifying, it really truly is forging a diamond before it's ready to manifest. That I see as one area that is a definite solitude. Even if you do have others around, I think innately it's just understood. Any maturity would have you not put that, subject or on public display, or even granted access to. Like, there's only valid people you're going to get those edits from. There's only certain concepts and principles. I'm not going to share it with Joe Blow in the corner, because he knows nothing about what I'm starting with anyway. I'm going to come to somebody who talks or knows something about what I'm saying and can give some valuable insight. So that fortifying, even in interaction with others, is still, I see it as a solitude space. Before any great man presented something out there, before he built the team around it, the dream of it, the seed of it to get planted, the blood, sweat, equity, all that to build up, that requires solitude. And I say grounding because what first came to mind when you first said it, in the chapter I've learned in my life from divorce and coming back to singledom, exactly what we're talking about on the grounding is that, so we're human beings, and as men, we're tasked as the accountability, leader, father, partner, husband, whatever the world looks for us to be, masculinity architect even if we create it, it's still an accountability. And then there's Dwayne under all of that. The work it takes to lead, the impression, because there's the grounding of the masculine, and as you want that soft landing place where you can't just be a rock beating feminine over the head, you're going to honor their preferences. What they say, men would live in a box, or, the things that we don't need, but feminine likes this. So we're going to cater to those preferences, because feminine likes smell goods, feminine likes candles. It's, oh, you got the new flavors of candles and stuff. I see, like, nah, but all doesn't want that, but his company is going to want that, so he's going to cater to that. That effort and energy becoming apparent. Like you said, I'm here right now. I got to keep an eye on the phone. I got to make sure, took them out to dinner before we go there. While we're at the restaurant, all right, 8 and 12-year-old, they're playing. Hey, we're in the restaurant. You're the loudest thing here. All that awareness and doing of things can get you further from the grounding of who you are. And so that's where I see the incubator phase when you're creating your identity or what you're up to is one space of grounding and solitude. And I also see and value, I was thinking on the way here, even in my current relationship, as good as things will ever be, I will never not have a space to myself. Like in my mind, okay, we can live together, that's cool. As long as I got 1,500, 2,000, whatever, a studio space, like something, somewhere, 1 to 3 days a week, I'm gonna need to step away and get back grounded too. Get some quiet time, focus on like what makes me me, so that I can be me for all that I bring light to. There's such a, and I think that's the trade-off to the leading, and that's where I said to masculine energy, because I recognize women can step into that if they have to. They're going to go through the same process. And just speaking to men, masculinity, leadership, in order for us to lead, in order for us to be everything, do everything that we do for all others, whether it's a job, whether it's your purpose, whether it's your parenting, whether it's your partnerships, relationships, family, village, everything. Because even you're a kid to somebody, are you a good son to them, so on and so forth. There's a grounding, a solitude that is grounding to who am I. And I think that has to be polished, dusted off. However, I think it's healthy to be in rotation, as my experience. And that I feel is an unspoken space that's not really navigated or broadcast in discussion for men. There's such a far out, because you've got the incel to average to not getting access to feminine, building family, having women. They don't even know those conversations yet. So the influence of, well, what do you do to get women? What do you do to happy wife, happy life, all these other circumstances? And those men responsible and leading in those scenarios are led astray from who they really are. And that, coming full circle to the Call of Duty, the man cave that it is now, I don't even see it as a, oh no, honey, I'm going to go get grounded like our forefathers did and leave the home. No, I'm just going to go downstairs and zone the fuck out, because I need to win at something. I need to get my points up and feel something, build something.
I need to win at something.
That. Yeah.
I heard it's like duty. And there is like, okay, men have duties, which are the duties, right? I got a blank. And then you have, but men also have desires that are sometimes detached from their duty. Mm. If I'm always caught in my duties, I can never figure out my desires, right? Mm-hmm. I might want to paint 5 times a week, but I'm always in my duty mode. And so that when I was listening to it, I was like, okay, it seems as if the solitude provides the space to reflect. Because what does it actually mean if I say who I am? If I'm just doing my duty, you could argue I'm playing the role of the whatever the thing I'm doing, more the role versus, but you're not the role, right? And so you're not merely the role. Part of you is the role, but you're not just the role. And so if you're stuck in all the roles all the time, then how do you ever know who you are? So that unplugging to me seems like, okay, I've been doing these blanks. Is this how I want life to actually be? And if it is, all right, let's go back. We're good. But sometimes it's like, I hate my wife. You know, I'm unhappy. I haven't had sex in 20 years. So when did this happen? It's like, all right, shit needs to change. I hate my job, but like, I'm fat. Like, when did, you know, and then the guy can go back and say, yo, this, my desires and who the roles have allowed me to become, or I've allowed the roles to make me become, aren't aligned. So let's fix some shit.
That, what you just said, is so powerful. I've interacted with clients, and I think this is an important distinction, because a lot of time I feel I show up as that reflection. And by I, just anyone willing to call out the truthful bullshit. Like, I tend to ask the questions that bring that out, and I hear a lot of it in your strategies as well. Like, is that really you? Is that really what you want? So many men I interact with are coping with the circumstances, coping with the relationship, coping with, the parenting, coping with the work, finances, problems, whatever is going on in life. And there's it's not that bad. I'm okay. And they just go on. And what I often experience is I show up as a mirror because I'm listening from, but is that what you want? Like, I'm indifferent, I have no judgment, and they feel all kinds of conversations as it's called out. But the important part for me is you're not walking away from this fucking conversation acknowledging you're talking your excuses. You're excusing that your life looks like this, your relationship looks like this, your health looks like, your parenting, and that the response able that would come from, okay, who am I about this shit? The circumstances of this, the world, the feminine, the unknown, the chaos, everything is going on around, and it occurs as so default. I mean, of course, no rite of passage, no standards and things like that. And the majority, the vast, as we're talking about it to a distinction, don't have it to just have not distinguished value in going off to themselves to truly reflect on what they want, why they want it, how they want it, and are they aligned with that or doing something completely different. I think that access to a conversation like that would really make a difference. Same as journaling. Journaling gets the thoughts out. Vlogging, same thing I do. It's a context like therapy. The reflection of that is what comes out of it. It's being with yourself, and that's something that even can be to that aided with a therapist, with a coach, with someone there. But it's getting the self-reflection that is so important, whether or not you would share those thoughts with a professional or somebody else. But that's absolutely, because to that, right, women in the space of their femininity don't do that.
They don't. Why would they? It's
Exactly.
not in alignment with what feminine is about, connecting.
Exactly.
Why would I connect with myself?
Exactly. Like, I don't want to be alone. Like,
Right.
I need to nurture my connections. So I'm not alone.
Even when they're going out with girlfriends. They don't go out.
Connect, deepen their
Right.
connections.
Exactly.
Feminine.
And not to say that women don't do self-reflection. That's a different thing. But they're necessary for the solitude.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's an interesting conversation.
Women self-reflect through each other, though.
Exactly.
They rarely go, unless it's something really critical where my homegirls are failing me. But their default is to go to another person. Whereas men's default tend to be, I'm going to, even if they're not by themselves, try to figure it out by myself. And if it's shit's hitting the fan, then I'll go confess, hey, I'm failing as a man, guys, what should I, there's a pride there, typically, which is why the suicide rate tends to be high.
The only caveat I would say to that is, and this is a human thing more than a woman thing, there's a certain level you get to where spiritually you seek self-reflection. So I know a number of women and men who, once they reach a certain level of awareness, they seek that solitude where I'm just going to go into a room and meditate. I'm going to go into temple, church, synagogue, studio, and just be myself and reflect and become closer to whatever they've defined spirit as. That is something that we as human beings seek out.
For sure.
And I just didn't want to exclude that and say women don't do that, because that's not necessarily true. As a default, well, let me back up. What it sounds like is, from going back to the masculine, there are multiple types of solitude that are necessary for a man to be balanced. He needs his man cave, Call of Duty, I'm going to go with the boys and shoot some hoops, or Fight Club or something. There's that aspect of solitude.
Maybe solitude amongst only other men.
Solitude amongst other men. Solitude among yourself, where you're just zoning out, where you're not necessarily self-reflecting. You're not looking at yourself. You're disconnecting.
Not responsible for anything.
When you're not responsible for
I mean,
anything.
like a cigar or something.
Sit and smoke a cigar with a drink. Back in the day, when men used to spend the bulk of their time by themselves just as a matter of their day, whether it's hunting or on the farm or whatever they were doing, the bulk of their time was by themselves, in their own thoughts. They would zone out by going to a bar. Sit on the porch and smoke, and you're just there with your thoughts, and you're not even self-reflecting, you're just zoning out. We've advanced all of that in our society today, and that we can sit on our phone and play Fortnite and zone out. But I think the missing is, going back to, there's no impetus for the masculine to self-reflect, and I do believe that that is a huge missing societally for us.
Well, why would I self-reflect if you're living in the duty? Why would I self-reflect if I'm still here? If you think about it that way, right? I'm not starving. I have a woman. I have some kids. If I start self-reflecting, that would imply a potential change. And if I change some shit, because you have to think they're coming from a place of, like, you're thinking about it from a place of, when you say, well, what if that's what you want? That's from the context of, if I change this, like, I'm willing to lose it all to change it in the direction for my desires.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's not going to lose shit, because I'm not sure if I can get it back.
Because we're not going to be in that conversation.
So I'm not even talking about, like, I'm doing my job as a guy, good little boy, and they're still here, right? I'm still receiving the love and whatnot, as far as I can tell. And so, fuck my desires, because my desires might be, I don't even want to know, because I might fuck my shit up, And so it's like, oh, dang, deep down I actually not that attracted to my wife anymore, but I'm not, put that back in the box in terms of, for me to acknowledge that would require a lot of discomfort and turmoil briefly, or maybe not even just briefly. That might be 2 years of turmoil and uncertainty. So
it comes with the comfort of solitude to be able to get through that.
And that's even the uncomfortable part, because then you have to acknowledge, particularly when you're by yourself. This is one thing if, as you're mentioning, you have a friend or someone that's kind of forcing the truth out of you, but there's a different level of not having to admit the truth to yourself, yet still doing so. That's not commonplace. So usually we do that when shit gets too bad, where we don't have a choice.
In our society today.
Right. And as humans, humans very rarely proactively disrupt their comfort.
What I was going to point to is, from the masculine, from the men perspective, there was a forced solitude, self-reflection, and how we live life.
Based on the environment.
Based on the environment and how you live life. So by the time you got married and chose your wife, you were still in the space of self-reflecting. As a young man, you go on your walkabout, which is all about self-reflection. Whatever version your society had, most young men had a go kill a bear or wolf moment, which is all about discovering who you are. And from that moment on, you chose your wife and your life within those moments of self-reflection. My point is, those moments of self-reflection that were just natural and occurred naturally to us have been moved to the unnecessary realm. Not that they're unnecessary, but that they're no longer forced. They're no longer natural. Except for, even in those moments when we're in a car driving, you have your radio on, and I listen to talk radio a lot. It's a complete distraction. I'm no longer in my thoughts. If somebody's talking on the radio, or it's not self-reflection. No matter, you have to seek that out. In our day-to-day, there's very few people have that. I think you may have that more than most because you've set up your life to be by yourself all the time. But once you have kids, once you have family, that becomes that much infinitely harder. But even before you have kids and family, most men don't isolate themselves naturally. They distract themselves with phones and women and games.
Like even if they're by themselves, they have a distraction.
Even if they're by themselves, they have a distraction. So they're not doing their self-reflection.
Right.
You've set up your life so that when you're by yourself, you've minimized the distraction. So you have a lot of time to self-reflect. And I'm sure you're not alone, but you're also not the norm by far.
Definitely. I never consciously, and even as I was saying, describing the even going to the park being a routine, there's only certain moments where I'm like, like 99% of my days, I don't think about it in that way because I always have access to people if I want to be. So it doesn't feel like I'm alone from, I don't have the option. But I'm always alone technically, like 99% of the time. Waking up early in the morning, like absolutely nobody's up,
And you're not grabbing your phone or getting on a computer or any of that.
Well, I go on the computer to write, but even that is a battle with my own because I'm constructing everything on that page. And
you're not communicating or consuming content.
Nothing.
You're in your own space
for 4 or 5 hours in the first part of the day, and then after that is the gym where I'm also by myself. Come back, drive back by myself for the rest and so I never really think about it in that way, and then that's the part may be in there also by, and so I guess because I thought about the work I do is it's like mental sculpting, right? I have to really understand the brain and mind in a way that, because even if I just did a call, I'm combining all the data I just got. Did it play out in the same way everybody else plays out? If not, why? What's the variables? And constantly in a state of like almost system refinement to where we can get almost plug and play as far as like somebody says something, that's and it's just get to the point where it's just you just blank, and rather than a 3-year session on the couch, my brain is always trying to refine it into a shorter span. If you get an understanding of how humans work so well that what feels like it should take me, or traditionally takes me, a 1.5 years to get through, boom, get to the root really quickly, and in 2 days the person's like a night and day person is like, why should it have to take 3 years? Maybe your processes aren't efficient enough. Maybe you don't understand human behavior as well as you think. And so I'm always in a space of this data, and because I always have access to people sending me stuff, and I'm like, so that's where my brain is all the time. And I thought about that in terms of work, because we sometimes think of work and labor as the same thing. And so people say they work all the time. I used to, when I was younger, try to feel even guilty about not laboring, because I conflated work with labor, meaning I'm not physically at the laptop, right? Because you can only type for so long before you're not typing anything, or I'm not training someone, or I'm not laboring. But it dawned on me, I can't think of a time where I'm not quote unquote working, meaning processing some data, unless I'm like with a woman or something, or with my own boys just chopping it up mentally, like all the time. And I never thought of that as work, because it's like, there's nothing else I want to do with my attention. So, but somebody may look at that and be like, you're never working, or you know what I mean?
Right.
In the same way that they may look at the leader of a company and he's not laboring ever. But he's always quote unquote working because he's always weighing the pros and cons of, okay, if we made this merger, and is always calculating something. And you may not see him do that just for 12 hours. Oh, he wasn't working because he wasn't shuffling papers around. But that mental, it's the same way we think about chess versus doing a sprint. That's a cognitive competition. We're playing chess. The only physical movement is the piece from here to here. All that is brain versus brain, but all of the work is here. So by the time I do this, there are like a million calculations that occurred, and that's very taxing. Which is why people don't typically like thinking, like really thinking, like, okay, what if I blank? Oh shit, my head hurts, right? Versus having what are called thought impulses, where you just get a thought pop in your head. Oh, I just, Kim Kardashian, this, and those are thought impulses. You feel like you're thinking, but thinking is if this and that, 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 and then you plot out all that. Then you gotta converge it back into one decision. Okay, so what's the pros and cons? What's the pros and cons? That's a very, very taxing thing. So yeah, I say all that to say, tangent-wise, realizing work and labor weren't the same thing was a big thing. And so constructing a life to where, because I realized that's what work was in my world, solitude and work became very tightly knit. And that wasn't something I even consciously realized until this moment. So I'm like, why am I so? Oh, right. Because it's not conducive to do work if I'm not by myself.
It was somewhere in what y'all were sharing, I heard like the diagnosis for where midlife crisis comes up, like for the average. And you pointed to what I heard was how easy it is to set up, like, okay, I need X rent paid, I need X for bills, get a job, done, check, we're good. Need woman for family, companionship, got a woman, done, we're good. Good. And like you said, once you're there at that point, to your point, having to do the mental processing, if then this, and looking at, is it still true? Is it still you? Is it what you want? Is there more out there or something else to be done? We don't revisit that because you have all these comforts. You don't want to jeopardize average. You don't want to jeopardize the plates that are spinning. And there's nothing, without self-reflection, there is no catalyst to wake up until X birthday or years, whatever you feel, oh fuck, is this it? And I haven't actually been doing anything because and that is the human nature by the brain. If it's not engaged or activated, it is going to default to the least amount of resources needed, expended to get the job done and minimize that, make it as efficient as possible. And so if putting that in place, coasting and giving distractions is what gets the mix, that's what a human will get into place with and lose yourself, never reflect on, do I still want this? Was this all that I wanted? What do I want next? Just, you've done it. You've set up the investments, and in 40 years, that'll be good. You've set up the family, and 15, 20 year stint for each one we pop out, we're going to be raising them. Got the life partnership, well, I'm not going to be alone, and there's my access to pussy, good. Don't reflect on anything.
Right.
And that's where the feminine comes in.
Exactly. None of that shit is going to work out.
Because they get bored, so that's not going to work. And you're going to get that chaos one way or the other. You find out, oh, little Jimmy's mine. Like a lot of different situations come when you become complacent as a man.
I know you had that 40-year plan, but I got $50,000 worth of shoes here.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Shake it up. And what I thought about, and you're talking about that, is that the midlife crisis. I don't know if that's harder now for it to occur or easier from both the masculine and feminine. And the masculine meaning you're here coasting along and you scroll on social media and you see Dwayne living like Larry. You know what I mean?
That's why I was going to say it's easier because of that.
And so they're like, oh damn, what am I doing? Right? But women in particular as well, if you are coasting, and they're way more susceptible to stuff like this. She's her homegirl living like, it's like,
Yeah.
this guy, he just comes home. Like,
And I'm fighting with 16-year-olds.
Right. It's like, this guy just comes home and does nothing. He's so predictable. And da-da-da-da.
I haven't gotten flowers in years.
Right. Seeing Marsha posting fake photos. And
Right.
now Jimmy done slid into the DMs. You know,
Yep.
and all kinds of chaos coming into your world. So it's it is definitely something that I don't think is a luxury men have, but at the same time, it's a luxury men have.
Not in today's day and age, definitely, because I think it even opens up another distinction is the solitude and reflection in contrast to feminine, specifically feminine partnership, having women in your life, because without that, what you could have gotten away with, say, 30 to 50 years ago, because the traditional feminine values in their place.
And you didn't have anybody to really, she didn't have anywhere to beyond the neighborhood.
Exactly.
It's hard for her to, because even best, like I hear that Marsha is experiencing this. I hear, you're not in their bed, you're not seeing pictures. But now we got full-blown pictures, video, slow-mo, like jiving off the building, and you're like, she's like, oh my God, I've not lived
I've never been to Dubai.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and to the point of, without that reflection, at least what's coming, I don't know, manosphere, or at least the stuff that I'm studying, feminine nature, it really is, to your point, social media, which of course is where feminine is going to thrive and consume so much, has put on loudspeaker all the possibilities, all the experiences. And even to what you're saying, local neighborhood, even to the comparison to Marsha, the closest to sliding in the DMs was the milkman.
Right.
So now it's, I think I might be kind of cute and showing some, and some couple of messages coming through and attention, and somebody who doesn't know, or some likes and hearts and attention, all that stuff. And so
Some friend of a friend.
if masculine is no longer reflecting, is set, because that's when female hypergamy, like
chaos is going to ensue.
Is this the best life experience? Because that feminine, what is life? What is life behind this man? There's the stability. We've got what we need for the kids. We've got love. You're good enough. Are you desired? Are you being ravished? Does he know how to ravish? Like is he taking to the Dubai? Are we going on trips? When's the last time there was this experience? And while I will say feminine energy does not have the foresight of that experience, will not be 20 years of experience.
Right.
That may be a wham bam experience. That may be you got on the plane, flew overseas, and then you came back, and what now after? So anyway, in a circumstance of life, just to maintain the dynamic, and this is for all, it doesn't matter. We were talking about Pete Davidson earlier. And that's with comparison to Kanye, and so even at higher levels and higher tiers, complacency. Honestly, the truth of it is that is, to a natural degree, that is feminine's catalyzing purpose to masculine.
To
that dance is to keep stimulating. Oh, you're getting complacent. Life has got to. Oh, we need this, and there is a material, and okay, perfect, because even to that, right, there is the materialistic of all the things that feminine could be inspired to, and that's also where just as much the yang, the masculine grounding of, but what are our values, what are our beliefs, what's going to happen for generations, what's the legacy we're leaving behind, such that allows feminine to relax, be at ease, fall back behind those values and beliefs, and want to follow your path. Rather than, if it's complacent, not doing anything, you're not even present to it, aware, fuck it, there's no kind of lead, you're not following anything, and feminine wants those experiences. Being contained, you want these experiences? Here's my plan for where we're getting debt free, here's my plan for where we're building wealth, here's my plan for in 10 years we're going to retire, here's my plan to make sure that we've got college tuition or whatever for the children set up decades down the road. Everything's good, daddy got it. I can relax and fuck what Marsha talking about. She just went on that trip and whatever else. I'm getting some other stuff. But like that whole context though.
And we all know Marsha sending herself to flowers anyway.
Right? That hollowness. But yeah, that is it's real good, because I love a conversation and a distinction that emphasizes masculine in its power and or lack thereof due to responsibility. Because even to what we just pointed to in that conversation with feminine, all the problems and issues that come up inside of feminine and dynamics with relationships, social dynamics, it still is on the responsibility. Well, if you're not reflecting, if you're not growing as a masculine, as a man, if you're not leading, if you're not doing your part, yeah, feminine will run amok, bring some chaos, do all this unknown because it's in its nature, and it still comes back to masculine. It still is on the shoulders of what did you do, what did you create? Because it's masculine, our value never actually goes down. Even that man that gets complacent, loses that woman and whatever else, as long as he had, even the choice to give up and self-delete has lost the who am I, literally answering the question. This sucks, she left, kids hate me, lost a job, whatever it looks like, who am I? It's always going to be who I'm paraplegic all of a sudden. Who am I? Like it's always possible, and masculine is always growing more valuable because of the fortitude, because of the determination, because of the length. It's I always had a theory, like guessing, like technically the longer a man lives, he would become, regardless, the most valuable, inevitable, if that makes sense. Like socially, the longer you live, the more experience you have, the more wisdom you have, the more knowledge that you have, you kind of can't be like the oldest loser in existence kind of thing. Like by that time you've seen more, done, even if it's just the knowledge in your head, like there's some, or if you invested $5 a month for whatever years, like there's some level of, with time, masculine is always going to be more valuable. Unless you're just a fuck up, in which strong survive. You wouldn't have made it that far anyway. Something, your habits, taking care of your health, whatever would have taken you out. But if your legacy lasts long enough over time, just that's the way masculine is designed. That, at least to a society that honors it, and to a masculine that steps into it and leads a life worth leading.
My uncle celebrated his 90th birthday yesterday, Sunday.
Big shit.
Yeah, big party for him. Totally aside, but looking at it from his legacy, his life, and what he's created, what he leaves, what he's created, he's not leaving anything yet, but what he's created is a ridiculously huge, successful, beautiful, wonderful, intelligent, highly educated family. You know? People who love him. You know, siblings who love him that he didn't meet until he was well grown, till I was grown. So just pointing to what you said, that's what that made me think of. Is like, you're right. His value has increased. Whether his ability to see that or not is a different question. But his value right now is high. You know? You live long enough and you're not a fuck up, you will be successful. You know? And if you were successful throughout your life, even at 90, you are still a high value man.
I think it's true. I find as I grow older, the two parts to that, because I was thinking about age earlier. As I grow older, my theory is that because you've sustained or withstood so much, you tend to relax more. It's not even, I think we're perfectly whole and complete. And from what my experience of it, the more I own and love myself, be myself, relax and allow, you know, the universal shit to do what it's doing, there's like I can see it in open, there's just a calming. It's like, it's all right. I didn't seen this. I didn't seen days before, hard times. I didn't seen droughts. I didn't seen peril. I didn't seen wars and whatever else. And like, just like tapping into that source of God, like when you're not so resistant because we don't control shit, but if you just relax, it is going to go how it's going to go. There's power inside of that too, because then you can align your energy to attract. And I'm not going to get into other conversations, but I heard something powerful today. It was like an entrepreneurial conversation. He said, reach financial freedom as soon as possible because you'll stop aging. And we touched on it earlier. If you're working a job, if you're surviving, the way I'll say it, that does actually clock you. in a way that you don't have the freedom to do what it is that you want. And I don't mean go vacations. I mean live a life that you want to live.
Right.
If some source, carrot, whatever, dictates Monday you do this, you're now watching the dates. Oh, is it that day already? Is it that week? Is it, month end? We got to get these, and that is aging you. Like it's clocking how many weeks, how many months, how many years you have done this versus the sun's up. I'm going to go out in nature.
There you
I'm
go.
going to go for a drive. I'm going to finish this book. I'm going to put this out into the world. Like there's a freedom of just living to that, and it is so valid. I mean, aside from the resources and being able to pour into your health, I do believe that the financial freedom, the biggest caveat to that, in context of longevity, vitality, is that you unplug from all the things that age us, and you just become like living.
Yeah.
I don't even know where Warren Buffett is, but last time I heard the stat, he was 88, 90 something, and still driving, still doing numbers, like going for it, because it's just, I think he said labor. There you go. Not working a day in your life. Working, which, I mean, easily today is recognizable, is just slavery. Like it's a modern voluntary,
100%.
and it is a slavery. You are signing over your essence of life. Of while this sun's up today, I'm going to fulfill whatever purpose, designation, whatever floats your heart. Versus
you get a weekend for it.
Exactly. I'm going to trade in because I need this money because whatever else. Because I mean, as everybody knows, you follow your value, do something long enough, you become valuable at it. Mastery. Money follows mastery. So master something, and you'll never work a day in your life kind of concept versus the voluntary slavery of, oh, I need this money because I don't have value. I don't have anything to give, but I can do this job that somebody dictates that pays this. And, where were we? Solitude. Reflection. I think those are all the conversations, though, that are critical to masculine that as a society, it feels like isn't. We were even talking about it, legacy. It occurs that the world is too, for me, in modern Western culture, the masses occur to me as no longer believing in legacy, or at least it's not what everyone lives for. And by legacy, I mean, we were talking about the guy with multiple partners about to get married to 3 wives kind of thing. Like biblical days, there was the first wife, the concubines, the mistresses, the acres of land that live long and prosper and like, grow, multiply, be fruitful, like that kind of a legacy. Having 5, 10 kids, having 20, 30 grandkids, having a way of life passed down kind of thing. The closest thing to that is like the oligarchs, at least for this country, Walmart family, or those old names and brands.
Do they even care? That's what I was just thinking. Does the 1% even care at this point anymore, though?
About legacy, or
about legacy? They care about wealth. Do they care about legacy? You have people like, I don't know, does Steve Jobs even have kids? Bill Gates have kids? I'm assuming they do, but you never hear about them.
Really true.
Oprah has no kids. What's the...
Elon Musk has 11. He doesn't live with them, I guess.
Well, that's a good point.
Is Elon Musk moving from a point from? Is he doing what he does because he's trying to create legacy, or because he's playing a game of money and power?
I mean, from how he builds his business in particular, it doesn't strike me as a money and power play, because
Tesla.
It doesn't. There are a lot of other avenues he could have gone. Buying Twitter. Definitely not on money.
He didn't want to buy. That was a mistake.
That was more about
that
the
was
free speech issue. That was the.
I don't think he intentionally, but I think he was going to back out of that deal, and he had to. It would have cost him more money to back out, so he did it. But that's a whole nother conversation.
But I mean, like, if you look at the companies, though, they're all futuristic, right? They're not, and so that's the case. I'd say
that's fair.
It's about. If you look at all of his business, they're all about the future. It's not, hey, popcorn is popular
Yeah.
right now. Let me make a popcorn company.
I would
Because
give you
that's-
that because
that's
he knows
present.
he's never going to be on Mars,
Right.
but he's still
Well, I've
going to
heard
put
him
people on
speak.
Mars.
But the Elon thing is just versus the Steve Jobs. The reason I mentioned that is because if the average person, probably, if they were honest, is not 100% certain the world will be better 50 years from now in their mind.
Correct.
So there's a level of, I've never really actually done any actual research on this. But if I assume shit's getting worse, it's very unlikely I'm going to think from a legacy standpoint because it's like, shit, let me make it out of here. Just let me make it to 80 before the dictatorship. And then our children are, like, there's a level of things are getting only worse from here on out. That is in the collective consciousness.
That's actually a really good point from the perspective of so many young people today, under 40, under 35, do not want children. They don't want legacy. They don't expect the world to be here.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're bringing a kid into.
Hope
They
lost.
legitimately do not expect the world to be here. So what's the point of legacy? Which means what's the point of having kids? Which all lends itself to us as a society being pretty much fucked.
I mean, it is a very much. Again, if you think about it in terms of business products, if I'm in a business, I could sell antiques, right? So my business is in the past. Like, that's how my products have value based on past shit. Could have a present day business, a Facebook, right? People give a fuck right now. They know it won't be around forever. People aren't always going to care. But it's a present day product. I can build a future product, which is the Elon category. I'm trying to get on Mars. Is it going to be profitable? Who the fuck knows? We're doing this. I'm building a rocket company. Okay, I could have tried to, like, why risk my fortune to try to do an electric car company in 2007 when nobody was thinking about that shit? Well, I want the future and Earth to exist, so and so risking all his wealth, he had a solar company as well initially.
He still has it, I think.
Maybe. I'm just saying what I knew. Neuralink. All these are futuristic bets. That thing that goes from one half of the like, these are all. I see hella problems. I think humanity should stay around.
Problems.
The lens from which is why he has 100 kids. Like the lens from which he thinks is. And I've heard him like verbatim say it. I think we focus too much on the world-ending doomsday lens, and I think we need to have a reason to get up in the day. And so that's his core view on reality. So he's moved, you can see it in his actions, his bets, the Twitter buy. Like, it's all like, oh shit, we're getting into this world of censorship, you can't speak, da da da. That was his core motivation for the Twitter move, right? And so now he unbanned everybody. It's like, oh no, free everybody, right? Because this is, y'all are tripping now. We're getting, and so he's willing to risk billions of dollars for the future. And so you think those who want people to be slaves are a fan of Elon? I mean, come on.
Not at all.
So it's I'll give one example of 1%. I mean, the richest man in the world from a legacy standpoint. And I do think there are those who, as long as my people are good, we're gonna be ruling the world anyway. So, like, who gives a fuck about the rest of y'all? Like, there's those who are in that space when it comes to legacy. As long as we're still the ruling class, as far as my family, then it doesn't matter if y'all are fucking dyeing your hair pink and blue. My child isn't doing that shit, and he's gonna have all the money in the world. So it just depends. But I'd say for the average person,
You started a thought. You were going to point to somebody. You said talking about somebody. You were about to point to somebody that the richest man in the world.
well, that's Elon.
Okay,
Yeah,
I thought you were moving down another.
No. The richest. I was gonna mention some few people that are already like the guy who owns Louis Vuitton. He's old, like he's 70 something already. So he was in both. He probably started from a legacy standpoint before all this stuff, and now that he's so I'd say as far as new people, like those who are already in that era of building from the legacy mindset to now they're probably like our thinking legacy, even in the older ones. But we're talking like the, as you're saying, 35 belowers, how they're operating, given all of the, because you have to think, we have never had this much access to negative information as ever. So if I want to shoot myself, all I have to do is go on Twitter for 2 minutes. I guarantee, like, all faith in humanity gone in 2 minutes, right? Whether it be reading the comments, whether it's just the unending news. That's this is fucked up. We're fucked because of this, and we're fucked here. Did I mention over here we're fucked? And so there's an unending sense of fuck it. Let me dye my hair pink because we're fucked. Humanity's over. And so, and there's like doomsday of the AI. We're gonna get eaten by AI. Like, there's a level of fuck it all-ness that I don't think people consciously are aware of when they don't have children. But there is this assumption underneath of
it's getting distinguished. There's a diagnosed trauma, well, to the climate change at least. That's one. The world is fucked. Do I want to bring kids?
Right.
I actually think millennials are very much into that and aware of that and what they're doing in that world and that, because just from the conversations I've had with people, it's like they're very straight about why they don't want to bring children into the world.
And it's because they think the world's getting worse.
They're anticipating an apocalypse of some kind.
Which makes sense with the timeline of the internet. Because again, if you're Billy Bob, whatever you get news-wise is what you see on that box at 7 p.m. Right? As far as you can tell, you see Marsha over there with her new fridge. And, you know, there's a level of, when I look around, and I mean, that's still the case even now, right? Most people, particularly in the U.S., no matter what the fuck Twitter says, compared to, you know, some motherfucking, you know, the depths of a poor
we're doing well
in India
and poverty.
You know what I mean? It's not like, it's not even, but the conditioning is that we're fucked, right? U.S. is bad. I mean, most Americans are anti-American, right? Like it's like America's using the word America is even a negative thing now, right? And so there are these delusions, and I talk to women all the time, and being from somewhere else, I always have to. It's not a lecture-y kind of thing, but subtle questions that have them realize, because they're like, there's always this anti-Americanness, and oh, you know, if we were in Spain or blah, and I'm like, you think people are fighting and clawing to come to America because Spain is so great, right? Meaning you've visited there for 3 days. And you think you know Spain? You're such a fish in water that this is almost embarrassing that I have to tell you stuff like this. You know what I mean? It's you have no context for what it means. Like your worldview is I have freedoms like this, and this, and I have safety, and I can just get up and go to Walmart, and there's a level of everythingness that is a fish in the water environment. If I pluck you out of there and throw you somewhere else, you're begging to come back to America in a week and a half.
Oh, girl, that influencer went over to Dubai and got locked up, popping off at the mouth.
Going to the Middle East, absolutely. There are studies worldwide that are saying that people who are leaving their countries from China or wherever are not coming here because of a bunch of different reasons.
Of course.
But America's not necessarily at the forefront anymore that it used to be as far as a desirable place to be. So people are going to Italy and Spain and places like
Sure.
that. Just because, I mean, if for no other reason than you get health care. But there's a lot of reasons to be someplace other than here. America is absolutely a great country. I'm nothing bad. No. But it is not the only place, and I think the rest of the world is starting to realize that. So I don't think that, I think people are still fighting to come here. And when you're comparing it to other Western countries, it's not as desirable as it used to be. The other point I wanted to make was, is when you were talking about Elon Musk has bet on the future, absolutely. I feel like he's more the exception than the rule. But you can tell he's bet on the future in, like you said, in the choices he made and the amount of children he has. He says there's going to be a future, and that's why I'm moving to it.
Right.
The majority of Americans, the majority of Western culture, no longer moves that way. How many people do you know that have more than 3 kids? It doesn't happen anymore. My uncle, I was telling about yesterday, had 9 siblings. His father had more than 27 kids.
Well, part of that as well is condoms weren't invented.
He did not use condoms.
Well, there's a level of that. There's a lot of factors in the decrease, but I think more importantly, let's take this particular generation. I don't think we really factor in how much social media, and I don't mean social media in like Facebook, like meaning media that is accessible to the normal person.
Mm-hmm.
Media has always existed, but it was a newspaper, and you're not getting in the fucking newspaper unless you're paying good fucking money. You're not getting on NBC unless you're not getting national attention.
You only got the news twice a day.
But even then, even if it could be on all 3 showings, it's limited and it's very expensive. Now
it's expensive and
it's
limited,
unlimited and free.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So random motherfucker 25 can just get a fucking phone, which is cheap
17.
in comparison, and just do some shit.
Yep.
And get global notoriety in a very short span of time. That was
impossible.
Right, impossible before. So now any regular person can now share their nonsense.
Who was it? Justin Bieber would not exist without the internet? Like, he just wouldn't exist. No, he wouldn't have been discovered.
Right, because YouTube, right? And so and then there's so many channels. I mean, you can, that's the thing now. I have a YouTube with all, I have a Instagram with all, I have a LinkedIn with all, I have right? And so you have global eyeball access for free, which is an insane thing because most people don't know what the fuck they're talking about, right? But
everybody has an opinion.
But that's my point. There was at least a somewhat filtration system. Now, was it the best? No, obviously not. Who can know that? Like, who decides what's the best? But meaning, you're not going on the news and being an idiot, like in any,
Right.
And so, because they're losing money, this is a dumb channel. I'm never watching this shit again, right? And so, but now any idiot can upload some shit on YouTube, and if it's funny, right? And if it's
funny, people will subscribe, in which case he'll become even more notorious.
And you have their attention now. And so that piece, coupled with now, I can see everywhere Lewis is because he doesn't have to pay to be on NBC to post an ad about he's living his best life to the country. He can just post a bunch of shit.
Yep.
And if people, for whatever reason, want to see his life enough, even if we don't, as long as I know you and I'm seeing your life, you could have 10 followers as long as I'm within that and I'm impressionable. Now, why the fuck would I want to have kids when I'm not, because most people will never, from a financial standpoint, have enough disposable income to actually live like that. Like, meaning word is genuinely not
right.
Not on a credit card, not on, like, truly I got tens of millions in the bank. I can actually be on this yacht. I can actually have this. I can actually be in every different country and very few people are ever going to, but I still want your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm either going to delay until I'm going to have it eventually, right? So I'm going to start this drop shipping company. I'm going to start a struggling company until I get the finances so that I can buy my self-esteem. And so, so once I get that money, I can't wait for these pictures to come in. But until then, I'm still going to be taking a trip or two. Mm-hmm. I might not have the resources for it, but I'm still going to take a trip or two.
I can show it on my credit card. I can
show
borrow against it. I can,
and then
I can eat ramen noodles for
bingo
6 months so that I can get on this trip.
I can have some temporary self-esteem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Now, factor that in and saying, I'm going to have a kid.
Yep.
Well, I don't even have the money yet to get the self-esteem. I'm damn sure not going to get a kid. Because I need to get the money first. Then I need to have the experiences. Then we can discuss a kid. But I can't, the value of living like Lewis is way higher than some kids. Kids are like this burdensome thing. That's stopping me from living my life.
I can get up and go when I want. I don't even want a dog.
And that's obviously more on the women's end because they're the ones who are controlling whether or not kids exist. Right, and so they're like, well, Marsha is living her life. Marsha ain't got no kid, da da da. And so they delay the kid time to 30 something. But then you're trying to find a man at 35, and it's trickier than you thought it would be. And now you're 39, and they're like, I'm not having kids with no 39-year-old.
Yep.
All right, and so there's this dynamic of the kids are getting reduced because of that whole I'm trying to live like Marsha mindset. And then it's way into your 30s when you're realizing how whack it is to be alone all the time. But now, women are, like to date up. And so if she's had a certain lifestyle that she developed for herself, or she's expecting the man to create a Marsha lifestyle for her, she's not even fucking with a dude who
can't create that lifestyle for her.
Who was a regular guy that they could build together and have a comfortable life, but
I don't care what you're making, I just need you to spend it all on me.
And I need to live like Marsha. That's key. I need to at least be able to post and say that my life is at least as good as hers. Women are very pingy, right? They ping off each other a lot. And so if it was, even back in the day, if it was up to Bob, shit, he has that one dishwasher from 5 years ago.
Exactly.
He wouldn't need the dishwasher 5,000. That's why they marketed to that block of time when women were by themselves. The kids were at school, and that's when all those fancy pans, the new washer 5,000. When she's by herself and she's like, "Oh my God, Marsha says she just got it." Oh girl, and that's when they're talking on the phone. Oh, you don't have one? Yeah, Johnny just bought me a new car. But now we scale that to every person can show their life. And so now we have, I'm not going to settle. Because anything below Marsha's lifestyle is settling. And not realizing that is such a small percentage of humans are going to have that amount of disposable income. If Marsha's life is even
I was going to say, Marsha's life isn't like that anyway.
Right,
it's all an illusion anyway. And if they're struggling to match an illusion, not reality.
And that's physically and financially. Because now, Photoshop, that's a whole different conversation.
Marsha's sitting in Dubai, but it's really a green screen she got behind.
Or it's some dude, we don't even need to get into that. But those awakenings is contributing to the decrease in the kids. Because people are like, kids are a burden. Kids are no longer something to...
I think it all circles back to the topic at hand, is missing a leadership, which circles to a missing for masculine. I love that we brought up Elon Musk and actually dove into, because just the example or beacon, not as a role model, but for a almost last of a dying breed, just legacy-minded, future-minded.
Last of a dying breed.
Because especially when you say the choices, that's what it literally points to the lack of masculine. Look at all the shit. Look at all the chaos. Look at all the feminine. Look at all how the circumstances roll over and die. There's a complete missing that's supposed to be the catalyst. Oh, we can fix this. Oh, I need solutions there. Oh, over here we're do
fucked.
this. Yeah, it's just
go our own way.
Exactly. That's the part that harkens back. It is, and that's where I think where the feminine energy-wise, the feminine sway is heavier, because that is the solution. This is all hard, damn it. Men going their own way. It's wait a minute. The men were the brave heart. Like, if we don't get to live it how we want, fuck it, we'll die for it. Right. It's like, no, we'll just check out.
No, let's go beat our meat.
Like, for real.
Let's go pleasure ourselves.
I don't understand that. That's the self-reflection, solitude.
Cowards.
And the big thing, what I think was underlined in the Solitude, is that is a discipline. The ability to even do it, let alone what you're going to see in self-reflection, let alone what you'll get out of it, and actually start to act on. In order to seek solitude in this day and age, that is a discipline. And in a feminine influenced society, it has even gotten to the men that just the failure to launch is just easier. It's just not the thing to do.
And even
If we can't win, why are we playing the game? Like, that's really the attitude. It's like,
cowards.
I can't win. I can't win with this woman. I can't win in this particular lifestyle. I can't win creating a legacy. Why play the game?
Read our news.
I'm going to stay home, watch porn, play video games, and make whatever money I need to do to afford that.
And we talked about, well, it's not even accurately Twitter, but X. That was a power play, if anything. Like, you are living at such a level of life. I don't know what the valuation was at the time, and I know it's tanked and shit since he's going through what he's going through. But $1 billion company, and because you didn't like something about it, you got involved and tried to play a chess move. Now, it did fall back, and just the ability to swing in that way.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it, all right.
It's like, yeah, crap, I lost some money, but you know what?
And now we're changing the name next week. Kick out the staff. This is the like that. That is a power fucking play. The dick rockets going to space. Him and Jeff Bezos, like all of it. These are, but see the stuff that you point the. You can see things like that, point the finger and judge at how you would do it differently or whatever else your opinions are. And there's a certain type of motherfucker. That's his motherfucking life. He wasn't destined or this favorite child of God. He's a human being and a man stepping into his masculine, and you are at impact of it. Like, that's the biggest fucking teabag in the world. That's my perspective. Is fuck the opinion to it.
You just gotta sit on the side and be like, oh, do something. Well, you can't? Alright, shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
I'll stick this dick rocket on your face.
Exactly.
You gotta take it. Right. You can't do shit.
Either that or answer, who am I? Who are you going to be?
Who are you going to be? And that's the key thing. But you're going to be would imply purpose. And purpose implies future. And those things are not. Because when I'm coming full circle, even with the time, the last thing I'd say was, what dawned on me is like, the only reason, because I'm like, well, and I think about my recent, and it's interesting because I've had people who come to me for the services and whatnot. I have friends who come to me as well, who know what I do, and very young has done millions. And from a financial standpoint, yet I have to have 3-4 hour convos with him about getting up and out of bed. And training him through that. And so, certainly not, his basic needs are met, for sure. His finances aren't an issue. However, I mean, you think it's my 8-year-old brother I have to walk him through stuff, right? And this is my boy. So, I mean, there are so many levels to that sort of lack of purposeness being a killer, because it's like, it's not even about making enough money. You just have to run enough money. Yet has to come back to nature, which is, I still feel miserable. And you're always going to feel like that if you're a man, if you're out of alignment with manhood. And so, all that to say, when I thought about the purpose piece, the only reason we even have a context for reflection is because we have somewhere we're aiming to go to. We're aware of the desire, not just the duty, but the actual desire to be somewhere. But if I don't have a purpose and I assume I have, as you said, I have a woman, I have a job, I have a house, there's no my individual man purpose beyond the thing. It's like, isn't the purpose to get the wife and the job, stable, and isn't that the purpose?
That's that complacency.
And so they're not viewing it as complacency because they thought that was the end goal. That was, you mentioned oftentimes, that was sold to you kind of thing. And so there is no reflection to be had because you think you're already where you're supposed to be, and then midlife crisis comes around. Wait, what? Why doesn't this feel right? And that's the first time perhaps somebody's going, actually, I never even wanted this. What am I doing?
I've done all this and I haven't done shit.
Yeah, I'm still not.
And that's when let me go solitude, reflect, something ain't right. We buy a motorcycle,
Right.
all that. And now I'm trying to express who I deep down wanted to be all along before I run out of time.
I think the key is, and I think the message is, as masculine, you need to be focusing on your legacy. You can survive without that, but you won't excel without that. You excel when you start thinking, when you live your life from thinking, from being, I'm leaving something behind. I'm making the world a better place.
For sure.
I'm going to leave something that is going to have an impact, a positive impact. I don't think anybody wants to have a negative impact. Whether the impact is negative or not is history's realm, but nobody steps out saying, I'm going to have a negative impact. They want a positive impact on the world. And if that's where you're moving your life from, you can excel.
Like what you said, self-reflection. Focus on yourself. That creates a legacy. That's the source of all of it.
Yeah. To actually be in the space of being able to leave a legacy, you have to be able to self-reflect. You have to be able to look at yourself and say, this is who I am. Not who I am, not who am I, but this is who I am. This is my code of honor. This is how I move through my life. This is what I'm fighting for. I'm willing to die for this, and more importantly, I'm willing to live for this.
Grown man shit.
Episode 13.